Yay, what is up? It is Alex here from Land Vista Aquascapes. Check that out. We got brand new shirts. Really awesome. So we are out here at our shop and we're going to be cleaning our 11 by 16 pond today. Might be thinking, why would I open up this video saying that string algae is good and then get rid of it? Well, that's a good question. So this is our 11 by 16 pond. We've got a couple upgrades on this pond. We've got a nice destination boulder, an expanded waterfall, and then some seating area on the side. So we've got our fire pit and some natural logs around the edges. So a couple upgrades to the standard. But what we got going on today is the clean out. So as you can see down here at the bottom, we do have a bunch of string and hair algae in the bottom. If you tuned into our last video, you'll know that string and hair algae is actually a good thing. It's Mother Nature's way of stepping in and basically balancing the ecosystem when it's cold and when those plants go dormant. So it's still going to keep that cycle going, and it's going to be pulling out those nitrates and nitrites from the water. So it's actually, a lot of people look at it and think that it's gross, but it's actually not a terrible thing to have in your pond. It's going to keep your water nice and crystal clear. So you can see in this pond, there's definitely that string and hair algae and some leaf debris and everything. But you can see all the way down to the bottom. So you can see all that rock and gravel at the bottom and the two big koi. But this pond hasn't been cleaned since early in the spring season last year, and it's still extremely crystal clear. We've got a proper biofalls, biological filtration in there, and the rock and gravel is helping keep a colony of bacteria in the bottom so that everything that actually hits the bottom will start to break down properly. And you know, the bacteria, it'll go through the nitrogen cycle, as you can see here. So it'll start at ammonia with all of the fish waste breaking down, and then that'll break down into nitrites, which is less harmful to the fish, but in high concentrations it's bad. And then from nitrites it'll go into nitrates, and then nitrates again aren't as harmful to the fish. They're actually way less harmful than ammonia and nitrite combined. But the nitrates will basically, unless you have plants in your pond, or in this case string algae, those nitrates will just build up in your pond, and there's no way for them to get out of it without doing a water change. Having plants in your pond will actually promote that cycle to recirculate. So a lot of people consider fish tanks are definitely a closed system, so that's why you need to do water changes all the time. Ponds are technically a closed system. I like to refer to them as a semi-closed system because technically speaking, they're still getting small amounts of water changes with rain and everything. They're still not going to be completely open like a natural waterway where it's going to get fresh water pumped through it all the time, but it is still going to get partial water changes. So doing water changes in a pond, not a bad idea. But this time of year during the spring, definitely a really good time to get in there and do a clean out. So what we're going to do is we are going to pump out the 11 by 16. We'll get down to that bottom shelf, catch the fish, and put them into our holding tank. Unfortunately, our 500-gallon holding tanks are currently holding our boarders in the office, but the Intex pool is going to work out perfectly fine for us. So we'll get these fish, put them into the tank, and then we'll get in here and we'll flush out all of the debris and everything and pressure wash all that algae out. You might be asking, why did I open up this video and say that string algae is good and then we're going to pressure wash all of it off? Well, the answer to that is this is the time of year where all of your plants are going to start to be growing. So if you get rid of that string algae, it's actually going to give them the access to all the nutrients that are in the water already so that the plants will start to grow better. This time of year we'll also add a pond starter bacteria. So that's good from 40 degrees and above, and basically what that bacteria is going to do is it's going to promote the cycle. So like I said earlier, the nitrification or the nitrogen cycle with the ammonia, nitrate, and nitrate, that bacteria is going to go through that cycle. So if you have a higher concentration of bacteria, it's actually going to outcompete that algae. So having the addition of that when you're doing a clean out is actually going to promote the bacteria to take the bacteria and the plants to take the nutrients out of the water rather than that algae growing back. So when we're doing clean outs, we do our best we'll actually put our clean out pumps on its side rather than up on its end, because if you put it on its side, it'll actually draw all of that clean, nice, clear water into the holding tank. So we're not pumping a bunch of debris in there. So we'll take the fish out, put them in the holding tank, and then we'll actually use most of this water to put back. We'll do a partial water change on this when we're doing the clean out and everything, but we want to save as much of this water as possible. It's similar to how an aquarium would work, where you're doing a partial water change. You don't want to clean 100% of the water because you're going to knock out that aged ecosystem. So, you know, that water's still going to have all of your bacteria and everything in it. So you don't want to do 100% water change. You're going to shock the system too much. The pH can fluctuate and everything, but holding as much water as we can is way less stressful to the fish. So once we're done with that, we'll pump it back into the pond and then just top off with fresh water. The other thing we'll also do with all of this nice clear water is we'll put the aerator in here as well. So we'll basically give the fish like a spa day. So they'll get that nice salt water that promotes healthy gill function and boosts their immune system, and then super oxygenate the water with our aerator so that there'll be as little stress as possible in here. The other very important thing right here is that we are going to sock our fish rather than putting them in a net. So that actually will reduce the weight of the fish on themselves, because, you know, in water they're going to be almost weightless. So in a net like that, it can actually crush them, or if they thrash, they can actually break their spines. So we'll use a koi sock to minimize that risk. So once we get down to about this level in the pond, we'll start to get in and pull all of the larger debris by hand, and then we'll get in and we'll pressure wash and flush all of this down to the bottom level. We'll throw in the clean out pump and then pump all of that debris out to an area. So this is the time in the clean out where we want to be extra, or where we take the extra time to be really thorough in flushing all of the debris from the bottom of the ponds. We will go through all the gravel and flush out, so you can see all of that debris coming in through there on the pump at the bottom. So we're flushing all of this debris down to the pump. This is going to be similar to how, if you're familiar with like aquariums and gravel vacuuming in them, instead of using like a vacuum to get all of this, we just flush down to the pump because we already have all of the good water over in the holding tank. So this is one of those times where it just takes a little bit of extra time to get it all nice and cleaned up, but it definitely makes a difference. All right, so it's the next day. You can tell because I have a different shirt on, and we've got the pond behind me, nice and crystal clear. Got the fish back and everything. Again, you definitely want to use a koi sock when you're transporting the fish from the tank to the pond. Minimize that stress. It's only been a day and it's like straight down to the bottom. And again, this is all that water that already was in it. We did a small water change, probably 10 to 20% was fresh water versus all the water that was in there. But this is just case in point of how a thriving ecosystem will actually stay nice and clean. And we also added a few different things. We changed the waterfall a little bit. There's a couple different areas that we altered, foamed in a couple rocks, and then got this water coming off over here. So those are some things that we tend to do during cleanouts, is not necessarily renovations and everything, but we'll reset rocks that have fallen in. And like at the bottom here, there was a ton of gravel, so the fish like to pick through the gravel because they're foragers and they're bottom feeders. So what they'll do is on the higher shelves, they'll actually pick through all the gravel, and all of it winds up falling into the bottom. So during the clean out, it's a perfect opportunity for us to take that from the bottom and pull it up to the side. We also added this nice stump that's been sitting in the back over here for a couple years now. What we were able to do was we got the cave that was set back here, we pushed it forward and put the log here, so these big guys that are down here in the bottom of the pond, they'll be able to have this nice big area under here that they have way more space to hang out in. We also fixed some of the plant pockets and then reset a few lights, because with this log here now, the light that it was in front of the skimmer was going to get blocked. So we reset some of the lights in here. We also fixed a few things in our 8x10 display. So this is the smallest pond display that we have on display here at our design center. And this one is, it's one of my personal favorites at our shop. I love the 11x16 because it's sort of like the standard size. It's not too big, not too small. But the 8x10 is one of those ponds that it's like, it can fit in almost any space. And the way that this one came out, it's just, I love so much about it. So you've got this nice skim cove in here, really nice and choked down, hides the skimmer really well. We moved this cave similar to over in the 11x16. We moved it from this area right here and then moved it back. So now it's more like a koi tunnel, but it also unintentionally creates sort of like this step across. Not necessarily that you would want to step into the pond, but it sort of like creates this continuation of the stepping stones on the side. So it just like, it's sort of design wise flows really well. I also decided to experiment, and this area right in here I filled with some sand. So we're going to do some marginals in there because they like finer finer substrate. So I'm really excited to play around with that area. We're not sure how it's going to work because, as I was saying, with the koi in the other pond and moving gravel and everything, they are foragers, so they might pick through all those marginals. I'm not 100% sure how that's going to go, but that's another thing with having a pond, is like you have the opportunity to experiment on your own. So especially for us here with our display gardens, it's sort of a sandbox area for us to mess around. Hey Dad. So that's pretty much all I've got for today. If you like this video, hit that subscribe button in the bottom, hit that thumbs up if you did, and also leave a comment in the bottom Ask me any questions that you'd like. I'm totally open to answering questions. Let me know what you think. Feedback is always appreciated. And hit that dislike if you didn't like it. You know, no hard feelings. And another important thing to note, we are always happy to have you stop by our design centers. We are located out here in Atco, New Jersey, 212 White Horse Pike. It's right next to where the old movie theater used to be, right where Route 73 and the White Horse Pike cross, and right down the road from Rax, if you're familiar with that. We're happy to have you. And I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.